Hi everyone, my name is Heather DiFrusicia. I'm the Associate Director of RTSM IWRS here at Axiom Real-Time Metrics, and I'm here with our CEO and founder, Andrew Schachter, to talk to you a little bit about our platform, the importance of a unified platform. We're going to talk about IRT and how that redefines how you run clinical trials. Andrew, do you want to talk a little bit about Axiom?
Sounds great. Appreciate it, Heather. Good afternoon or morning or evening, regardless where everybody is around the world. Thanks for spending a little bit of time with my colleague Heather and I. For a little bit of background, we got started just under 20 years ago. We've run hundreds of studies since then, and the largest we're running right now is putting in about 40,000 patients. And we do a heck of a lot of COVID work of every kind and sort, as of course part of a global effort as we work through this pandemic. So today we're going to talk to you about unified eClinical platforms, why they make sense, why they change how you run your clinical research, and just to be aware, for us, the fundamental goal is giving you greater control over your data. So the theme you're going to hear over and over again in our conversations. Next slide, Heather. So for a little bit of background about Axiom and a little bit about what we do, we started building an EDC application back in 2001. It became known as Fusion. Fusion started life in EDC, data management, IRT, and over many, many years and tremendous effort by so many people, it grew into a 15-module platform, and it looks like this. So Fusion is a unified platform broken into the major categories of collect all the data from EDC, eSource, pre-screening, code the data, manage your risk profiles, obviously, across lots of different categories, collect ePro data from any kind, iPhone, Android, over the web, over phone, and of course the age of innovation of doing e-consent is upon us. So another part of Fusion, track the safety activity, move into all the things about IRT, which Heather is going to talk to you about in depth in our session today. And then the data catch-all of import and manage data from different sources. And last but not least, all the elements around CTMS. So when we started building technology, we partnered that technology with helping biotech, med device, and pharmaceutical companies do things to make running studies easier. So it's not just about the technology. We of course started life in data management and data analytics, and started building pharmacovigilance, biostats, and the tools around clinical management to be able to help run studies.
So we're going to talk to you also about our approach to IRT. So we're providing both the team and the technology, which is the IWRS randomization and enrollment management, as well as CTM tracking for the inventory management. So we're providing that platform to do those activities, to track those activities, as well as the team that's providing the guided support and monitoring of all of the activities throughout the study life cycle. When we're talking about the inventory side, that means global inventory awareness, everything from the program-wide inventory down to the accountability, whether it's site or subject level, and down to the details, volumes, pill counts, etc. Andrew?
Thanks, Heather. So for us, one of the things we're going to talk about today is the puzzle pieces of getting access to the critical information that you need when it comes to running your study. And for everybody, they're going to be a little bit different, but in many organizations, there are, of course, EDC information, IRT, CTMS, and how do you manage the risks that are hidden in your data? So a theme we're going to pick up in our conversation today. We think about clinical research data as obviously the epicenter of how you run everything. So at Axiom, we define that as being a connected hub. We think you should have single sign-on access to all of the critical information that's part of the way you make decisions managing your study, make decisions about your enrollment activity, managing safety events, and so forth. And in a lot of cases, that data is just not centralized. That's the idea of a connected hub. Next slide, Heather. So what is your universe look like? Excuse me. What does your universe look like today? There are a lot of organizations where this is the picture of what their study is all about. They have data in a lot of different platforms: EDC, IWRS, ePro, Central Lab, and so forth. And it translates into, obviously, a variety of challenges and limitations. Heather?
And specifically to dive into the IRT being disconnected from the EDC system, which happens most often, then that means that there's redundant data entry required, or less control, less flexibility around your data and enrollment. And we're going to talk about that in detail. Andrew?
Thanks, Heather. And when it comes to seeing that data, we hear constantly from clients about the fact that when the data spread across multiple systems, you don't have an integrated dashboard to be able to see all of that information. And we know there's just critical points in that data where you want to be able to glance at a screen and see, that's my enrollment, those are my issues, these are the things I need to fix. Next slide. To that end, when you get that data and you see all of those categories I just mentioned, now you want to be able to dive down into that data. So, you know, if you're the medical monitor, you of course want access into a centralized report where you're going to be able to see everything on a patient profile, or everything on critical factors that are part of the safety monitoring, primary or secondary endpoints, and you want to be able to see that in a continual stream of data. You don't want to spend your time collating that information together. And go ahead, Heather.
And this is something that, thank you, Andrew, I wanted to just expand on my point earlier, where you're looking at additional efforts on the site staff, because there's not just having different systems, you have to do the training on those various systems, they have to manage their access, and so there's the logging in and managing of passwords, etc., getting comfortable with navigating within and trying to remember where to find the data. In addition to that, I mentioned earlier that additional data entry, so redundant data, and needing to have that in for eligibility as well as for your clinical data. Andrew?
And you know, from a sponsor perspective, it comes down to how do you want to spend your time? Do you want to spend your time grabbing and collating information, or do you want to spend your time managing your study and managing the challenges within it? We all know the study is going to have challenges. That's guaranteed. No matter how good the plan is, things are going to come up in bumps in the road. But if you have integrated and unified access into all of the data that allows you to make those better decisions, it changes how you react to them and how quickly you can solve problems in your study. So how does a unified platform change that? It translates to two fundamental points. One, get access to everything from a single sign-on. And two, have access to the dashboards and reporting that give you the ability to manage every single piece of information. And as we highlighted to you before, in a unified platform like Fusion, we bring together all of the key elements that you want to be able to see. And what does that mean to you when it comes to operationalizing your study? So it translates into what we at Axiom call data-driven studies. The idea that instead of siloing your information, you have 24/7 access into all of the critical aspects of the data. And we know there's a lot of different stakeholders who want them, the critical things being EDC data, inventory and IRT, CTMS, and of course, overall reporting across the board. And we really believe, sorry, Heather, if you can pop back up for 1 sec. We really believe that you should have what we call total ownership of the data stream. meaning regardless of who's producing that data for you, you should have the ability to control it, access it, and manage it. Next slide. That translates to us where the top of the pyramid you can see is obviously all the aspects of reporting. So when you access something in Fusion, you can click on the reporting portal tab and you're immediately getting access to reports. We don't think you should need a degree in reporting, and of course, everything from an operational standpoint stacks just below that. Heather?
And just on the configuration options, so we have this unified platform, but we do have flexibility. So if you just need a particular module, you can use that for your study. Most often, we're looking at the EDC plus selected modules, or of course, you're going to get the full benefit of the centralized platform when you're using the complete Fusion suite. And how does this change how you manage your studies?
Thank you, Heather.
And this is all about owning your data. And so when you really have ownership and access to your data, that includes, of course, the EDC, your clinical data, and that IWRS IRT. Having that in a single platform leads all of these benefits. So let's break this down. So let's talk about eligibility and randomization. So of course, subjects must meet those study-specific eligibility requirements to be randomized and enrolled into the study. And having that unified platform, the centralized data, means you have that flexibility, you have that control. And so here you can see we have in our IRT, we want to calculate the subject eligibility. So if you have a centralized system, then you can already have your subject details available from the EDC. You have eligibility and any complex data comparisons, again, coming from the EDC. You can check your inventory requirements coming from that part of that the IRT bucket of your clinical suite. And then you have other modules. So maybe you have some ePro data and you have centralized review and approval through the adjudication module. All of this comes together. And so you have your EDC and your module data centralized to use to determine eligibility. You don't need the redundant data entry to confirm your subject details or your key clinical data for stratifications. And there's no concerns about any delays or stale data due to having to set up ad hoc integrations. The other side of IRT, of course, is the inventory portion. And so when you're talking about supply, it's not just a dispensing schedule. There's all these different factors that are coming together that impact your study needs. And it's centralized in that full suite. So part of that is your upcoming needs, and that includes pre-screening, screening activity. Often that's captured in a single database instead of the usual where your screening activity is happening over here in your EDC, and then you find out about a subject when they're ready to enroll. The other aspect is the subject status updates. If there's a discontinuation, any interruptions to dosing or dose changes, then there's no need to go into each system and update it. Everything's talking to each other in that central database. The other aspect is accountability. So there's often the assignment, and then there's that separate confirmation of dispensing, compliance, return. When you have a single system, then there's no need for reconciliations. You can also monitor for any trends. Maybe it's a study where there's weight-based dosing. And so in those cases, you can see that the weight might be shifting either down or up, and that could impact your inventory needs. And so you can look ahead and predict what's required. Additionally, when you're looking at the ePro side of things, then Fusion can be looking at the IP, rescue medication use, and determining if there's any retraining, if there's a compliance issue, or if there's just a need for additional IP. All of that is coming together because the data is available in one place. Andrew, do you want to talk about dashboards?
Sure. So what does it look like when the data comes together in one place? We're just going to give you just a short glance. As we mentioned before, we think you should be able to have access to your critical dashboards via the web, by your phone. You should be able to pick up your iPhone and be able to see everything that's going on in your study. So these are just a couple of key things that you can see. So dashboards about enrollment. All of these are configured based upon study requirements, so they are unique to our clients' needs. Next slide. The ability to be able to see projected enrollment, planned enrollment, and then the actual enrollment, because we know those things do not happen as expected. So just to be able to see them in real time are just some of the things that we can do in Fusion at any given moment. So where does it bring you all in a unified platform? It really translates to seamless data analysis. There are many examples that are in each of the categories here, but the fundamental goal is the fact that I want to collect the data, I want to be able to report it, and I want to be able to analyze it in real time. I want to be able to see all of the critical things that I need to ensure that I'm going to achieve every level of study success possible in front of me. So that's one of the best benefits of unified platforms, is the ability to bring together all of the things you need to achieve that study success. There are obviously a whole bunch on these on this slide. The only one I'm just going to mention ever so briefly is the idea of streamlining processes. So much time is lost when data is manually available in 5 or 6 different places. And there's just so many ways that a study can be run better from a unified platform. Something to think about for future conversation. So thanks for spending some time with us. What sets Axiom apart? We obviously touched on a unified platform. If you probably got a sense from Heather and I, it's about this idea of relentless focus on the success of study. It's just how we as an organization think about everything that we do. So how do we ensure that we're focused on the idea of how do we design and manage the best study possible? How do we bring the best technology to bear? And of course, the best minds. So thank you so much. We really appreciate you spending a little bit of time with my colleague Heather and I. And we hope you have a fantastic day. Heather, thank you for partnering with me on this presentation.
Thank you as well. And thank you to you.
And you can reach us, contact details are on this page, and you can reach our teams, and have a great day. Thank you.